right, we've now roped in a professor of political economy at the University of Johannesburg, Isaac Khambule. Prof, a very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for your time. Let's get a sense then, Prof, of just how symbolic this court case challenge is, given it being described as a critical test of how Parliament relates to executive decisions.
Definitely going to be a crucial moment for South Africa and as well as in terms of the relationship that we've often seen between the judiciary and as well as the executive, because a decision was taken within Parliament to pass the fiscal framework and now it is going to court because certain political parties are contesting it, and there are some who are looking at this as to whether we're also pertaining to issues of judicial overreach, or it is again a moral authority of the judiciary in terms of coming into play and as well as adjudicating on matters that relate to what the state is able to do and as well as to how their powers can be limited. But I think for what we're seeing now, what is at the core is that idea that if we do increase the VAT, then it is likely to be the poor people who are going to be impacted, and again as to how the courts are going to ventilate on that particular matter.
And I mean, just staying on, and also just what has been said on the political front in terms of those arguments. I mean, in the main, the court challenge by the DA and the EFF speaks also to the procedural legality of the National Assembly's passage to the fiscal framework, as you've also been alluding to, and the revenue proposals presented by the Finance Minister, Godongwana, last month, is being challenged. Now, the party has denied, and that is the DA, Action SA's allegation that it's complicit in the initial 2 percentage point VAT that led to the scrapping, of course, you will recall, of the original budget speech. Does the DA have other motives as suggested here, do you think? I mean, politically, how do we read into these?
So there's definitely certain ulterior motives that also exist, I think, from all political parties, because when this matter was first ventilated by all the political parties, the idea was the government of national unity cannot go ahead and present a budget that was not agreed upon by all parties. And we would recall again that during the first sitting, the budget speech could not be tabled. And then it was only until the second time whereby it was tabled. And when it was tabled, it was definitely on matters of saying most of the GNU partners are agreeing that this particular budget could pass. But I think the core issues then that came out before the tabling of the budget speech was some of the principle and as well as merits the DA had put in place to say we will only support this particular budget if you do away with the Expropriation Act, if you do away with the Bella Bill, basically if you do away with some of the transformation policies that you are going to be implementing or acts that you're going to be implementing. So in this case, I would say that the DA has been negotiating on bad faith based on what we see in the public gallery and as well as what we see again in terms of what the business sector is also trying to dictate. But I think for now, we also look at parties such as the EFF. The question then in relation to them is, are they negotiating on bad faith? Because we also understand that in as much as they are here today, they have also come out to say, we are likely to vote along with the ANC if the DA collapses itself from this GNU. So I think the one thing that we really need to question is, in as much as these two political parties claim to have the interests of the people at heart, there are certain cards that they're also playing at the back end, of which they're also trying to influence the decisions that are made by the executive.
And very quickly, Prof, I want to reference, just on your point to the latter party, the EFF, just what transpired in court today in as far as its legal representative and some of the utterances that were made in court. The advocate, Nkaitobi, was saying that the fiscal policy framework was passed using deceptive means, which goes against the spirit of oath parliamentarians take. How then do we, align this with just the sentiments that you've been sharing?
Yes, I mean, that's definitely an important argument that is being forwarded by Advocate Nkaitobi, because we will also recall that I think the issue of bad faith in terms of how this fiscal framework was passed goes, I think, accordingly to all these relevant particular political parties, because we also see again that there seems to have been certain deceptive measures that were utilized by the ANC in getting the likes of Action SA and as well as Rise Mzansi to vote for this fiscal framework to be passed under the condition that they will review the increase in VAT or they will do away with it. And now subsequently we are seeing that it is going to be quite difficult to do away with that as it stands, despite the alternative measures that have been presented by these particular political parties. So it seems that all three parties that are involved or embroiled in this particular issue in court are again facing issues whereby there are certain squabbles that are mainly led by their political ambitions, not necessarily the interest of the poor. Because had it been the case of the interest of the poor, at that particular sitting of adopting this particular fiscal framework was not going to be tabled in front of those political parties.
Maybe three parties, but also indirectly a lot more other parties. But let's very quickly, as we wrap up our conversation, Prop, look at, just some of the implications post this particular court matter. Of course, notwithstanding this court process and the hope it brings in as far as the VAT implications is concerned, post the 1st of May, what does this mean for the future of, let's say, the DA, and more importantly, the relationship between the ANC and the DA, given the GNU structure? And importantly, we have to look ahead in terms of the local government elections when we factor in then South Africans who are closely watching these developments too.
No, I'm fully with you. I think some of the core issues that you've raised there are at the heart of what is likely to become the political playground for all of these political parties. And the reason for saying that is mainly because if you look at the core issues of the EFF, you look at the core issues of the DA, you also look at the core issues of the ANC, as well as we are heading up to the 26th local government election, and as well as the 1st of May. The ANC, for example, how will it look at the Action SA and as well as Rise Mzansi and say, but you assisted us in voting and we voted for an end that does not necessarily align to the particular needs of our citizens because we thought we were going to do away with this budget. But secondly, I think the one core thing that we also need to reflect on is the East does not necessarily bode well for what we see in the political landscape because we know the ANC is unlikely to take a decision to oust the DA from the GNU because it also depends on the idea of market also influencing the direction that the country is taking. And I could definitely say that that has been one of the major weaknesses with the ANC because it tends to be influenced by the business rather than the actual core issues that people of bread and butter that the people are seeking at the end of the day. And as we stand here, I think the core issue now is how then do we move forward from all of this fragmentation? But what we see is there is unlikely to be a break between the DA and the ANC, but it is also going to cause a lot of animosity between the ANC and the smaller political parties that voted for the ANC to pass this particular budget. So as we head to 2026, it's definitely going to be an issue of saying, how do we then negotiate coalitions in these municipalities? Because it seems that we have been negotiating in bad faith throughout this entire period.
All right. Thank you so much, Prof, for your time and, of course, your input. Professor of Political Economy at the University of Johannesburg. That's Professor Isaac Khambule.